CBC News has learned that Elizabeth Wettlaufer, the Ontario nurse who killed 8 elderly patients, has confessed to another crime. She admitted to trying to smother a patient with a pillow. Now, the victim survived the murder attempt. It's the second additional crime against a patient in her care that prosecutors kept secret from the public. The patient has not been identified.
For years, elderly patients inside Canadian nursing homes died unexpectedly, while the nurse caring for them hid a terrifying secret. Her name was Elizabeth Wettlaufer, and by the time the police finally uncovered the truth, 8 people were dead. But what makes this case even more disturbing is that Elizabeth didn't completely hide what she was doing. In fact, over the years, she confessed pieces of the truth to multiple people, friends, medical professionals, even members of her own church, and somehow she still continued working as a nurse. Tonight, we're breaking down how one of Canada's most shocking serial killers was able to hide in plain sight for years while the system around her repeatedly failed to stop her. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the True Crime Hotspot, a place where we take an in-depth look into some strange, shocking, chilling, and sometimes unsolved criminal cases. Please like, subscribe and share for regular uploads of cases from all over the world. Today's case takes us to Canada, the second largest country in the world. It's known for its vast landscapes, peaceful cities, and a deep sense of community. But in the quiet town of Woodstock, Ontario, the everyday calm masked something sinister. Woodstock is a historic town that's known for its red brick buildings and a vibrant agricultural past. Yet behind this small town charm, the community became the backdrop for one of the most chilling healthcare scandals in Canadian history. As families grieved, the town struggled to comprehend how a trusted nurse had operated right under their noses. Nursing homes are places that are built on trust. Families hand over the care of their vulnerable parents and grandparents, believing people inside those facilities will protect them when they can no longer protect themselves. Residents depend on nurses not just for medication and for treatment, but also for dignity, comfort, and safety. And in many cases, those residents are frail, isolated, or already suffering from illnesses that already place them close to the end of their lives. So unfortunately, this fact makes the unexpected deaths in such institutions less likely to trigger suspicion. That reality would become central to this case, because for years, Elizabeth Wettlaufer was hiding in plain sight. Elizabeth Tracy May Wettlaufer was born in Ontario, Canada on June 10, 1967. By many accounts, she struggled with emotional instability from an early age, and she was described as enthusiastic, energetic, awkward, and shy. She struggled with her sexual identity and wondered if she was a lesbian. She battled with the view that this was morally wrong, as she was brought up with a strict Baptist Christian father. She would later claim to friends that she found God and was no longer a lesbian. She later spoke openly about severe depression, self-harm, addiction, and feelings of anger that she found difficult to control. Despite these struggles, she pursued a career in healthcare, eventually becoming a registered nurse in 1995. In 1997, she married a truck driver named Daniel Wettlaufer, and by 2006, Elizabeth was having affairs online with women. At this point, she stated that she started to hear voices, and to combat them, she would sing Bible verses. She said this made her angry at God, and that was when she began having thoughts about hurting people. In 2007, her marriage to Daniel ended after he discovered her relationship with a woman named Sheila Andrews, and Andrews would later say that during their relationship, Elizabeth had temper tantrums and generally acted like a spoiled child. To people around her, Elizabeth often appeared awkward but functional. She often showed up to work intoxicated and did little to hide her addictions. She worked in various long-term care facilities and developed experience caring for elderly patients. But beneath the surface, her life was becoming increasingly chaotic. She battled alcoholism, she abused medication, she received multiple complaints from her patients and was suspended several times and terminated from one employment. She later admitted that she experienced violent thought towards some patients under her care, but still, she remained employed in nursing homes responsible for vulnerable residents. In 2007, according to investigators, Elizabeth Wettlaufer committed her first murder. Her victim was an elderly resident living in a long-term care facility in Woodstock, Ontario. Wettlaufer later confessed that she used insulin to kill, a method that was difficult to detect, especially among elderly patients already dealing with complex medical conditions. Over the next several years, more residents died. Most were elderly, many were already sickly or vulnerable, and in case after case, their deaths were accepted as natural. No murder investigations, no alarms were raised, and there was no immediate suspicion. Meanwhile, Elizabeth continued moving through the healthcare system. She was working shifts, she was administering medication, and she was maintaining access to patients that trusted her completely. What makes this case especially disturbing is how ordinary Elizabeth often appeared. Her co-workers described her as emotional, sometimes unstable, but not necessarily dangerous. Outside of work, she attended church regularly. She spoke with counselors, she interacted with friends and support groups, and over time, pieces of the truth started slipping out. At different points, Wettlaufer hinted at harming patients, sometimes indirectly, sometimes more openly, but the comments were either misunderstood or minimized or never properly reported. And one of the most chilling aspects of this case is how many opportunities there were for people to intervene before more people had died.
Karamali is in Woodstock, Ontario tonight, where the report was released. Camille?
It's this 1,500-page document that looks into exactly how the 52-year-old got away with killing 8 people. The commissioners delved into thousands of pages of documents and interviewed dozens of witnesses.
In 2014, concerns about Wettlaufer's behavior at work began escalating. Co-workers noticed problems. There were complaints involving medication practices and erratic conduct. Eventually, she was fired from one nursing home, but not for murder. Not because anyone suspected patients were being intentionally harmed. Instead, the concerns focused largely on performance and misconduct issues, and despite these warning signs, Wettlaufer was later able to continue working elsewhere in healthcare. That failure would later become one of the biggest public criticisms around the case, because people began asking a difficult question: how many warning signs were actually missed, and how many lives could have been saved if someone had acted sooner? By September of 2016, Elizabeth's mental state appeared to be deteriorating further, and on the 16th of September 2016, she entered a psychiatric treatment program for addiction and emotional issues where she was diagnosed with major depressive disorder and borderline personality disorder. It was there that the truth started finally emerging. During treatment sessions, Wettlaufer confessed to killing patients. At first, some people struggled to fully grasp the seriousness of what she was saying, but eventually medical professionals alerted authorities, and for the first time, investigators began looking closely at the deaths connected to the nurse. The investigation that followed would uncover a horrifying pattern stretching back nearly a decade. Elizabeth wrote to the College of Nurses Ontario, which is a regulatory body for nurses. She informed them that she had deliberately harmed patients and was under investigation, therefore she was electing to resign as a registered nurse. Police soon began reviewing patient deaths across multiple care facilities. They examined medical records, timelines, insulin administration, and Wettlaufer's work schedules. The deeper investigators looked, the worse the case became. Eventually, Wettlaufer confessed to murdering 8 elderly residents. Authorities also linked her to several attempted murders and assaults involving additional patients. Many of the victims were between their 70s and 90s. People already physically fragile, people whose families trusted the healthcare system to protect them. For relatives, the revelations were devastating. Some families had spent years believing that their loved ones had died naturally, only to later discover that they had actually been murdered.
To the families of all the victims, We all extend our heartfelt condolences during this difficult time. It is our hope that you may find some comfort in knowing that charges have been.
Before we get into the court proceedings, please allow me to do some quick housekeeping. If this is your first time here, thank you for joining us, and if you enjoy hearing about interesting crime cases from all over the world, then please do consider subscribing. To those returning, welcome back and thanks for subscribing, liking and commenting on my videos. It really helps the channel out a lot. As a one-man team at True Crime Hotspot, I choose the cases I work on myself depending on what stirs my interest, but this is where you come in as the True Crime Hotspot community. By sharing which cases you'd like me to cover, I can deep dive into the cases that you're interested in, so please leave a comment or reach out on any of my social media pages appearing on screen now. Now, with housekeeping out of the way, let's get into the court proceedings. On the 1st of June 2017, Elizabeth Wettlaufer pleaded guilty to 8 counts of first-degree murder. She also pleaded guilty to multiple charges of attempted murder and aggravated assault. During court proceedings, details of the killings shocked Canada, not only because of the number of victims, but also because the crimes had continued for so many years inside institutions meant to provide care and safety. Public inquiries later examined how the healthcare system failed to detect what was happening sooner. The investigation revealed communication breakdowns, inadequate oversight, and repeated missed opportunities to intervene. And for many Canadians, the case shattered trust in long-term care facilities. On the 26th of June 2017, Elizabeth Wettlaufer was given 8 life sentences with the possibility of parole after 25 years, so that means she could be eligible for parole in 2041. I wonder if she would ever be given parole though, considering the heinous nature of her crimes and the position of nurse that she took advantage of. The story of Elizabeth Wettlaufer is disturbing for many reasons, but perhaps the most frightening part is that she was never really hiding away from society. She said in court that she had told a former lover, her pastor, and some friends about the murders, but they didn't believe her, or none of them bothered to inform the police. She wasn't living in secret. She wasn't isolated. She was working ordinary shifts inside trusted institutions, and while vulnerable people died around her, warning signs were repeatedly overlooked. This wasn't only the story of a serial killer. This was a story of a system that failed to stop one.
What happened here in Woodstock, Ontario was disgusting.
Public outbursts of outrage in a Pack Hotel conference room in Woodstock, Ontario. Friends and family of the victims of Elizabeth Wettlaufer.
What happened here is just awful.
The ex-nurse serial killer responsible for the death of 8 patients under her care over the span of 10 years.
If we're going to prevent similar tragedies in the future, we cannot continue to do the same things in the same ways in the long-term care system. We cannot.
Now a public inquiry releasing recommendations, 91 in total, some of which include increasing government funds towards nurse training and education, taking reasonable steps to limit the supply of insulin, and adopting a screening process for nurses and staff that includes background checks. The commissioner revealed Wettlaufer would have never been caught if she hadn't turned herself in.
We would not have known about them, period.
Family members of victims are trying to find some sort of closure and hope changes can be made to prevent something like this from happening again.
And my dad was murdered. And many other people's family were murdered.
For the families of the victims, no investigation or sentence can undo what happened. Parents, grandparents, loved ones who were supposed to spend their final years in safety and care, but instead their lives were deliberately taken by someone they trusted. The case of Elizabeth Wettlaufer remains one of Canada's most shocking examples of institutional failure, betrayal, and hidden violence, and it continues to raise difficult questions about accountability inside healthcare systems designed to protect the vulnerable. If you found this case interesting or informative, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you to all of you who've subscribed, liked, and shared my videos. It means a lot to me. For more deep dives into complex, controversial criminal cases, please consider clicking the bell icon to be notified when we upload new videos every Sunday at 6 p.m. GMT, the True Crime Hotspot.